You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 438. If you stand around his favorite podcast, Jeremiah Morrill here, joined by executive video producer, audio engineer Zach Burcham, and his assistant Bones Harcourt over there in the assistant producer's chair. Welcome, gentlemen.
I did not agree to this.
I did.
Bones has got his new favorite seat.
Two tall, gangly dudes crammed in a corner.
Y'all are doing great. You're doing the job of a half of a person with four arms. You're doing it spectacular. Tonight's show is continuing our candidate series that's been brought to you by Wyland's Flowers, Ink and Ale, and the Muncie Farm and Fleet Repair. It is our prosecutor night, and we have 5 candidates for running for Henry County Prosecutor that are here tonight. We are elbows deep, but we're all going to promise to try to get along and share microphones and make it work. So should be a really good program for everybody. The show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you, other times to make you laugh, but hopefully you always learn something new. Mr. Bones, we just did a nice 10, 15 minutes over on Patreon. Did you learn anything over there?
Yes. You are lazy.
Yeah.
Your neighbors make you look bad.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. And they all said I need to buy my wife more gifts. That was the takeaway.
We might need to get a kitchen.
I got voted 9-0 that it's that I need to spend some money.
Please do it. And you have to listen to Patreon, but buy what they told you to buy as gifts and tell me how that goes.
Just touche.
Please let me know how that goes.
I did that once with a dishwasher and a microwave,
And you're still here.
and I'm hell. I
Double
wasn't
whammy. How many times have you been married?
just once. How about you?
Okay.
What's a microwave?
I'm going to send your wife my card.
What's a microwave even worth? That's like a stocking stuffer. That's like the cheapest. That's not.
I mean, we were newlyweds, Zach. Anyway, Mr. Bones, we got to say thank you to some folks.
Those people are Jonathan Phillips over at Ed Martin Honda in Indianapolis. We got Blake Reese over at Varsity Outfitters. We got Tommy Oakes over at Walnut Ridge RV, Moral Monument Cleaning, and Pops Recycle.
All right. And coming up, continuing the prosecutor series next week, we have the 4 of the 5 candidates. We got 80% committed to the Henry County Sheriff's GOP side. And if the 5th one wants to join us, we'll pull out another chair. And then we'll wrap up the following Monday with the treasurer candidate scheduled. All right. That's enough time wasting. Let's get to know all the folks that made their way into here tonight and get things started. Let's go from camera right to left. Christy Brock, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. You want to tell us about yourself a little bit and what reason you got into the race?
Sure. So I decided to run for a few different reasons. Primarily, I wanted to make sure that all victims in our community have a voice. I have experience working with victims. I think everyone here agrees that crimes with victims need to be handled carefully and they need to have adequate outcomes. And I have real experience working with victims and building trust with them, building relationships with them in order to ensure that they are going to be able to have a voice and testify confidently in a courtroom. Because when you have a crime against a victim, if you can't get that victim to walk into an intimidating courtroom with a judge, with strangers, with the individual who is accused of committing a crime against you, if you can't get them to testify, you're not going to get a conviction. And I think that one thing we all agree about right now is there's concerns about how crimes with victims are being handled. And so I think that's important to be able to build those relationships and help individuals through those situations. I also want to improve communication in our office. I think that it seems like our prosecutor's office has struggled with this area in my conversations that I've had with law enforcement, and I want to be able to build that back up to where it needs to be. Not only does having good communication with your law enforcement as a prosecutor, help you build strong cases, which is ultimately what we want. But if you don't have that back and forth, that communication, you're not going to have good oversight of one another. And so I think that's very important to have as well. So those are some of my big concerns for why I want to do it. Also, I'm just really dedicated to serving my community. I love Henry County. I grew up here. My husband and I met here, and we returned to Henry County to raise our own family. And community service has always been important to me. That's why I help with organizations like the Crisis Intervention Team, which helps our justice system figure out better ways to handle the mental health crisis in Henry County. I work with organizations like Red Tail Land Conservancy and Healthy Communities, trying to protect some of the beautiful parts of Henry County. And then I serve as a CASA, court-appointed special advocate, representing the best interests of children's needs in the courtroom. I help a lot of nonprofits like Hagar's Hope get their nonprofit status. And then I also helped put the pool in at the Aquatic Baker Park Center. So it's real important to me, and I'm just really honored to have the chance to be considered for all of that.
All right. Looking forward to getting to know more of you as the night goes on. Jeremy Bell, tell us about yourself and your motivations for running for the office.
Well, I am a lifelong Henry County resident. I was born here. I went to law school at IU McKinley Law School, graduated in 2004, and immediately came back here to open my own office. A few days after I was admitted to practice, I graduated law school May 8th, and I was admitted to practice May the 17th because I took the bar exam in my last semester. That May, I also opened my office, where I've been for over 20 years practicing civil law with mostly bankruptcies, family law, wills and estates. And in October 2004, I was employed by Kit Crane as one of his deputy prosecutors. And I'm now going on almost 22 years. October will be 22 years as a deputy prosecutor. I'm running because a couple things. One, I want to help victims get justice. I was a victim in a crime when I was in law school, so I know how it feels. I was in law school, and a gentleman, or a couple of gentlemen, got into the garage of the house while I was sleeping in the house, stole a bunch of items. So I know how that feels, waking up, realizing that you've been burglared. You know, that's a sinking feeling that to know that you're not safe in your own home. So I want to be the voice of those victims that don't feel like that they are safe, and I want to make them feel safe. Additionally, I want to try some different things. Obviously, I've been in as a deputy prosecutor. I can't make a lot of changes, but as a prosecutor, I plan on making quite a few changes. One of the things I want to do is juvenile probation has started this attendance intervention meetings that they have to try to keep students, middle school students and high school students in classes. I want to further that by starting a diversion program where both the parent and the child are held accountable, and make them, because 80% of people that are incarcerated do not have a high school diploma. If we can keep these kids in school so they graduate and have an opportunity for getting employment, they're less likely to commit crimes. Because I mean, as I said, I've been almost 22 years. I've seen that people that I prosecuted when I first started, their kids come through there, and now some of those grandkids are coming through the doors and being charged with crimes.
You see a cycle that you want to break.
Yes, I want to break that cycle so that we can cut down, hopefully, on the people being incarcerated. Additionally, sorry.
No, you're fine. And we're just doing the introduction for now. We can get back to get into further details as we go along. Tony, why don't you tell us about yourself, your background, and your motivations for jumping in?
All right. Well, I've lived here for my 48 years. We moved to the family farm after my grandfather grandfather died in 1985. I moved here in 86. I went to Shenandoah, graduated in 95. Went to Purdue, got my engineering degree. Then went to IU in Indy, got my law degree. Started practicing in October of 2005. Started practicing with someone, the attorney I had worked for as a clerk prior to graduation. And then in 2009, I set out on my own next door to here, and I've been there ever since. In that time, I've practiced all across the state. I've been to Wayne County, Marion County. I've handled criminal cases in, I think, 19 counties. And I've seen how those counties do things differently from the way they're done here. They're more effective. One of the big problems that I think we have here is the no contact orders that other counties do for witnesses of crimes. That's something that you do in Indianapolis. It's something that you do in Hancock County, and especially for the victims of the crime. Keep people from recanting their accusations and keep pressure from being applied to those people. We need to do that. We have too many witnesses and victims who get pressured into recanting or asking that charges don't get pursued. So we have to stop that. We also have to stop the, we'll call it the soft sentences, the probation for sex crimes, the probation for child predators, the people who produce and distribute child pornography. That's something that you need to go away a long time for. And I'm not going to put up with that type of thing. If I'm a prosecutor, I will send those people to prison for a very long time. And if I have the opportunity and the facts warrant, I'll make sure they're in the system for the rest of their life, because those people need to be separated from people who understand how important protecting children would be. And the other part of it is I'm kind of, I ran 4 years ago and I wasn't going to run again. But over the last 3 years, I've seen a degradation of the criminal justice system here in Henry County that's quite honestly very shocking. And one of the problems we have is the office no longer has any credibility with criminals. And what happens when you don't have credibility with criminals is they start coming in from out of county and they start doing the misdeeds here. And if we don't want to become an oasis of crime in Indiana, or at least East Central Indiana, we have to restore credibility to that office, and that's done by trying cases. That's done by giving victims justice, because the other problem is if you don't give victims justice, eventually you're going to start having victims of crime say, the system doesn't work, I'm going to take matters into my own hands. And then you have a downward spiral of violence that I don't want to have happen here. I mean, my kids are here, they go to school here, my family's here. I don't want them to be in a place that becomes violent because the system offers no redress.
All right. And Kathy Ike, introduce yourself. Tell us about your motivations for running.
Hi, I'm Kathy Ike, and I grew up in Speedway, graduated from Speedway High School, went to Indiana University, got a degree in finance from Kelley School of Business, went to Valparaiso Law School. When I graduated from law school, it was always my intention to live in the country. I did not want to live in a subdivision. I prefer to live out, have some acreage, and always desired to live out in the country. So I used to show horses, quarter horses, and was familiar with Newcastle because we have a wonderful best horse facility for horse shows in the entire state of Indiana. So I spent many weekends here in Newcastle.
Come out for the Indy circuit?
Yes,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Did very well there. And I was reserve all in 1995 on a quarter horse that I broke and trained myself. So when I got out of law school, I was looking for a property and found a perfect property in Knightstown. And I've lived in Knightstown for 24 and a half years. And when I first graduated from law school, I was employed at the Marion County Public Defender or Prosecutor's Office, was a prosecutor under Scott Newman, and worked there, and eventually went to the Public Defender Office. So I have a total of 14 and a half years working in Marion County, and I was commuting back and forth from Knightstown. And living here in Knightstown, things were going well for at least 10 years or so. And then the drug dealing started happening next door to me. And I'd come home from work and I'd sit on my driveway and I'd see car after car after car after car, spending about 4 minutes next door. And I got so fed up with the drug dealing because when you have drug dealing going on, it brings in other crimes. There can be home invasions, people looking to break into the drug homes. However, when you would Google that address next door, a picture of my home would come up. And I thought that was very dangerous. And I got so aggravated with the drug dealing going on next door. While I'm at work in Marion County, I called Matt Pierce from the Henry County Sheriff's Office because he was head of drug task force at the time. And I said, you've got to do something about the drug dealing going on next door. And he says, well, you're kind of in a rural area. I really don't have a place to do surveillance. I said, I've got a big circular driveway, 3 lanes wide. You can park any squad car you want, any type of car you want on that driveway. I'll do you one better. I've got a dormer window that faces that property. You can hang out there all day long while I'm at work here in Marion County. I'll do you one better than that. I'll put a deer camera up on a pine tree and video record everything that's going on. And I told him many years ago, I'm running for prosecutor of this county. Not only did that happen, but while I was in Marion County, I always read the newspaper and pay attention to the news. And I was seeing things that were happening where I chose to live. I chose to move to Henry County and decided I was going to move to my property and live there as long as I can until I'm too old to take care of 4 acres. And I was noticing things that were happening here. I can remember a box truck traveling from Pennsylvania to California. And I believe there were 5 children in the back of the box truck, and it was January and freezing cold out. Mom and dad were in the cab of the truck with the heat on, and there was furniture falling all over the children, and the children were cold, and they got stopped somewhere around the truck stop at 3 and 70 and were arrested for neglect. And the newspaper article stated that the prosecutor went to court and had the parents released from jail. So I just paid attention to the news articles of things that were happening, and I was not very happy with it. So when I complained to Matt Pierce about the drug dealing going on next door and told him I was running for prosecutor of this county someday, he said, why don't you run for public defender? I said, what are you talking about? He says, well, there's a job posting for the chief public defender because he's retiring. Would you like the job posting? Sure. He mailed it to me. Well, it was more money than I was making in Marion County. I didn't have to drive 73 miles round trip to downtown Indianapolis every day, and I didn't have to pay $210 a month for parking anymore. So on January 1 of 2016, over 10 years ago, I was appointed by a board to become the chief public defender of Henry County. And I want to explain to something that maybe some people in Henry County don't understand. I'm a county employee. I am appointed by Judge Witham and Judge Crane to handle level 5 felony cases and higher. I do not pick and choose my cases. I don't choose my clients. When they appoint the office, and I want something else to be understood, there are actually 2 public defender offices in this county. Even their elected officials don't know this. My office only handles level 5 felonies and higher, and chins cases and juvenile cases. There is another public defender office outside of this county that handles the misdemeanor and level 6 felonies. So when Judge Witham and Judge Crane give me these cases, I don't get to pick and choose my clients, and I have to represent those clients to the best of my abilities. It is their constitutional right to have an attorney to represent them. So I have been the chief public defender for over 10 years here. So altogether, I have over 25 years of nothing but criminal trial experience. I have never practiced any other type of law. So 25 years of nothing but criminal trial experience. I believe I'm the most experienced candidate. I also have tried several murder cases. I don't believe any other candidate here has ever tried murder cases. So that's why I want to run, because I want to make a difference in this county and make things better. Because currently, the Henry County Prosecutor's Office, as it stands today, it's not working. It's not working for the citizens. It's not working for law enforcement because there is no communication with the law enforcement. And it's not even working for the courts. I'm in the courts all the time. The mistakes in the plea agreements, because they're not even simply being proofread. The charges are incorrect. The statutes are incorrect. And it's causing disruptions in the court because things are not right. Discovery is moving so slowly, and it takes forever to get discovery from the current prosecutors and deputy prosecutors that are working there now. We are an automatic discovery state, and those things are supposed to be tendered to defense attorneys as soon as you get it, and we shouldn't have to ask for it. And it's just not happening. And I want to make a difference. I want to make this community safer. I'm going to move those cases, which will also save taxpayers a lot of dollars because it costs $42 per day to house the typical Henry County inmate. And at one point, I know a week ago was 191 inmates. If I could reduce that even by a mere 24 inmates by moving the cases through faster, I'm not talking about letting them out, don't get me wrong, move them onto the Department of Corrections or wherever they're going to be going. Just 24 inmates a day, I can save Henry County taxpayers $365,000 a year. There's no reason for those inmates to be sitting in the county jail for up to 2 years, as they often are.
All right. Kyle Allen, tell us about yourself, your motivations. Hopefully you didn't fall asleep. I know all the attorneys want to talk, so here's your 20 minutes.
What? I think it's only fair with last name starting with A that I go last because I've been.
You're at the top of the ballot.
Hey, that's a good thing. Remember that, everybody. Why am I running? It's pretty simple. I'll keep it very straightforward, very down to earth. It's what I've always wanted to do. All through law school. That's what I geared up for, was being a prosecutor. And coming out of law school back in 2008, the market was really good back then, if you guys recall. And I got my first job after volunteering at a prosecutor's office in Hancock County for several months at the public defender in Marion County. So I stayed there for a few years and then branched out and did my own criminal practice for 3 or 4 years after that. So I spent my first 5 years of my career doing nothing but criminal law, but life changes, things evolve. I did civil work for 10 years. And then, in life, when you have dreams and goals, sometimes you never know if they're going to come around, but you never lose hope that things at the farm all the time, just like Michelle did when she was a kid and I did, but not in Knightstown, but in Brown County, Indiana a lot. But just having the ability to look at the community, know that you're a part of it, and know that you can make changes that are beneficial from the big picture. It's no secret that decades ago, we lost a lot of industry in this community, and that led to a major shift in the jobs that are available, the incomes that people have. And when you lose those basic forms of income and the job market, sinks like it did, that's when other things start to work their way in, like drugs is a big problem, and it didn't happen overnight. But one of the big shifts that we need to make and trends we need to change
is the mindset of the criminal in the community. I mean, thankfully, our community is still a safe place to be. We don't have murders happening all the time. We don't have a bunch of violent crimes occurring. They occur everywhere. But we still have a safe community. So we have a good foundation to work from. But to reverse the trend, we need to send a very, very strong message to the criminal minded in the community that the trend is going to change. Getting a plea offer, you know, I'll listen to a jail call and someone will say, then I'll get my plea offer, whatever. I'll just wait for the next one because it'll be twice as good or something like that. No, you know, speaking with all the officers, I had 2 conversations today. I have a couple of hearings next week, and it was, remind me about this person again. Is this who I'm thinking? Yeah, okay. All right, well, here's the approach that I've got in mind. Tell me where you stand on this. What do you think is a good way to go? And so many young officers, we've got a lot of really good young officers. They haven't been to trial. They really want to go and start trying cases and getting experience on the stand as a witness. And one of the messages that we're going to have to send is simply, hey, take it or leave it. If you want to go to trial, when you lose, you are going to go to prison. And people need to know that if they commit the right type of crime and they've been repeat offenders for years and years, you don't belong in the community still, reoffending and doing the same things over and over again. So that's one of the messages that I think we need to send. And we need to do everything, like I've said before, to number one priorities, make sure
we're always thinking about our children in the community. Because if we prioritize them now and making decisions in our children's best interest, then our future is only going to be brighter.
So tell me, Kyle, about how the office would be organized. What the day-to-day looks like in your view for a prosecutor. How many folks work for you? Are you in really an administrative role as you're leading the department? What's the Kyle Allen prosecutor's office look like?
It looks vastly different. There will be major changes from the way cases flow through the office. There will be major changes from the way contact is made with all of our witnesses in our cases. I've been there for 4 months. And so some people say, oh, that's not much experience. But the other side of that is when you know how to run a business, when you've managed a law firm, when you've worked in the criminal justice system, you know how things should go. So there are a lot of things that I've noticed that do or don't occur already that are problematic, or things that I would just assume would be occurring within a prosecutor's office that haven't been occurring. And it struck me as odd. So there are a number of things that we'll need to change from a system and a process standpoint within the office to make everything flow much more efficiently, so that we can focus on the actual fun work of building the cases up so that we can get them to a point where they can be tried when necessary a heck of a lot quicker than they are. But we need more people. That's a big issue, and funding is always an issue. We all know our county does have funding issues currently. And that dates back, I mean, that was a big issue when I was on council. And I remember asking Michael in a budget hearing, hey, how many more prosecutors do you need in the office? Is there funding that you were requesting? And he said no. And that surprised me because I had looked at some of the Indiana Prosecuting Attorney Council's statistics and recommendations and seen that, you know, where we are, number of cases, county size, office needs at least 1 or 2 more to be able to fall within those parameters that they set out there as goalposts. So that's something that we need to look at. We need to look at, obviously, we've all discussed it. Victim advocacy is huge. That's something I do in every case right now already, is reach out as soon as I can to talk to victims of crimes, get them in as soon as we can within a week or so of an issue, so that we can talk about what just occurred, so that it's fresh in everyone's mind and we can rely back on notes when someone mentioned it earlier. 6 months, a year from now, they've talked or had time to think about things, and they say, I don't know if I want to go through with this anymore. Well, I can look at my note and say, you told me you were afraid that you might end up dead if this happens again. And being able to refer back to those notes and point at those notes and say, these are your words. I mean, it has a huge impact with people, and it takes them back to that moment to let them remember what actually occurred. Because as time goes by, things change for people in their minds and what may or may not have happened. But that's a big piece within the office. But outwardly, there needs to be a much bigger presence of the prosecutor's office within the county. I think it's a role that you need somebody in a leadership position to be willing to be out there talking to the people in the community at community events, hosting events, doing everything necessary to broadcast the positive things that we're doing and be able to show the true nature of what it is that we do. Because a lot of folks truly don't understand what the prosecutor's office actually does, unless you're unfortunately in the system on the bad side, or you
work there, right?
Yeah, or you work there. Yeah.
Let's. I want to try to give everybody
yeah.
the opportunity to talk. So, Kathy, tell me what the prosecutor's office looks like in your administration. Are you striving for headcount changes? Are you really administrative? Are you trying to get in the courtroom yourself? What's it look like?
It needs to be totally restructured. You've got, obviously, the prosecutor should take the high profile cases. You've got your chief deputy prosecutor and several other deputy prosecutors. What needs to change, you need a director of operations, that person's going to actually run the office and deals with grants. The prosecutor's office has not been pursuing any grants. There's a lot of grant money out there. Kyle talked about funding. Well, there's ways to go get that funding. I actually had a conversation with Joe Burgess today, who was our elected prosecutor for a number of years. And I asked him, did you ever pursue any grants? He emphatically said no. Well, the Hancock County Prosecutor's Office gets a lot of grants. So we can have somebody that works with that. You need a media coordinator. And that media coordinator does need to respond to the public, notify the public what we're doing, keep people apprised of what's going in that office and everything that's going on within that office. And we could do a lot better being transparent with the general public and the citizens of Henry County. So I would restructure the office. The deputy prosecutors need to have a little more control over what their evidence is in their cases. They need to trial prep those cases as soon as they get assigned those cases, know who their witnesses are, what their evidence is, and actually look at the evidence that they have and determine the strengths and weaknesses of their cases, rather than just leading it to the investigator or the administrative staff to gather and collect that evidence and disperse it to defense attorneys. They actually need to look at it themselves, because I think it would change some of the cases.
All right. Tony Saunders, what's your version of the prosecutors look like? Head count, reorganization, et cetera?
The head count's been the same for the 20 years I've been practicing. Head count's not the problem. The problem is that the people who are there, they're not pursuing cases the way that they need to be. Back when I started, when Kit was prosecutor, his cases, every single one, was trial ready the day it was filed. And that is so important, because once you file that case, that's the strongest your case is ever going to be. Because at that point, then you have defense attorneys coming in, chipping at things, witnesses disappear. Sometimes they recant, sometimes they forget. And if you're not ready to go on day one to take that thing to trial, then you're going to let it languish in 2, 3, sometimes 4 years. And that's not helpful to the administration of justice, because trying cases is how a prosecutor gets credibility. And I remember when I started, basically going to trial was a suicide mission. You knew you were going to lose. The only time you win was when your client was either so obdurate as to not want to go, or you got an offer that you thought the judge would give you less time if you went to trial. That happened once. But the point is you knew that case, when it was filed, was a 97% chance of being successful. And your only real hope was a witness possibly going away. And we need to get back to that, because we'll have cases where I'll take a deposition and the prosecutor will be like, well, I didn't know that, or I didn't ask that question. And the case has to be pled either way down or dismissed.
Because they aren't going to trial with those. They're
They are.
going away. They're not getting to final justice.
For the most part. Which tells me either they never should have been filed to begin with, or they should have been charged correctly if they had done their trial prep work, which they're not doing. And in my administration, most of the trial work would fall on myself and whoever would be my chief deputy, because those two positions are the most important. They should be the most experienced. They should be people like myself who enjoy going to trial, who like being in court. I'm in court constantly. I do civil, I do family law, and I am always prepping cases with evidence and doing the things that this prosecutor's office doesn't do. I do that every day. And I'm in court 5-6 times a month arguing evidence and preparing cases. And I want to be able to represent the people of Henry County the way I represent my clients now. And I'm very successful with what I do now.
All right, Jeremy Bell, tell us. You've worked in the prosecutor's office for 20 years. What's your version of the office look like if you're in charge?
So my version the head count will stay the same. A few administrations ago, for victim advocacy, we partnered with Safe at Home, because a lot of the domestic violence grants are granted to the Safe at Home here in Henry County. And I would not want to take those grants away from Safe at Home so that they can't do their job. I would rather partner with them so they can be the victim advocates for the victims in Henry County and work with us to make sure that the victims get justice and that we have contact with them. Additionally, running my private office for 20 years, I had to do things to make sure that I didn't miss filing deadlines or things like that, because one of the things I did in my private office was bankruptcies, and those are highly detailed. You have to have certain documents filed within a certain time. So I came up with a set of tools to use as a case management. Instead of paying large sums of money to these providers, I did it for fairly cheap, and it works. And so I'm going to install a new case management system so that deadlines are not missed.
Are you finding that the prosecutor's office is missing deadlines now?
Unfortunately, sometimes the discovery doesn't go out as quickly as possible. I know that there have been some motions filed with other deputies trying to compel discovery. And we're busy. Things happen, but we need to get the discovery out on time to people. And I have always been trial ready on cases as soon as they're assigned to me. I'm probably the last person that prosecuted a criminal case in this county back in 2023. Now, there's been trials since then, but as far as all the people here, I'm the one that's prosecuted the case most recently. I prosecuted numerous cases that I've never not gotten a guilty verdict on a felony trial that I tried. I got a not guilty verdict on my very first misdemeanor jury trial. I've tried numerous other trials since then, a rape case, a child molest case where the defendant, I got him sentenced to 110 years in the Department of Corrections. My last case was a battery on a public safety officer. A gentleman at the prison boiled some water in the microwave, threw it on a correctional officer. I tried that case a few years ago. He got an additional sentence to the max of the level it was. It was level 5 felony, which max is 6 years, and he's serving an additional 6 years in prison at this point. So I've always been trial ready. I can't say that other deputies are, because I don't know what they're doing. But one of the other things that I'm going to change is that all deputies, including the chief deputy down, will have to get my approval on plea agreements that are for level 5 felonies and up. Indiana has level 5 felonies, level 4 felonies, level 3, level 2, level 1, with level 1 being the highest felony outside of murder. So any level 5 felony or up, I am going to have to approve that plea agreement. And if I look at the case and think we can do better, then I'm going to say, no, I'm not approving this plea agreement. Either take it to trial or come up with a better plea agreement. Because I've always been hard on criminals. One of the defense attorneys around here was dealing with Rick Culver, these were mentioned before, and he sent a plea that called for 20 plus years to the DOC, and the response from that criminal defense attorney was, Jeremy, get off his computer. Stay off Rick's computer, because I send out pleas that are major sentences for people. And one of the other things I would change is currently we're offering plea agreements to allow defendants to go to drug treatment programs like House of Hope, things like that, for major dealing cases. And we will offer a plea agreement that calls for an open sentence, and if they do the treatment and successful, then the judge can sentence them to what the judge thinks is appropriate. I will not allow those plea agreements. I think that if a drug dealer has a substance abuse problem and he wants to correct it, then he needs to plead. If he wants to try treatment, he needs to plead what's called a mercy plea, which basically is go in front of the judge and say, I'm guilty to everything on here, but I want help. I won't offer open plea agreements for people that want to go to drug treatment that are dealers. I'm going to make them plead to everything, open to the court, no plea agreements, so that if they screw up, then they're looking at a long potential sentence. If they go and correct themselves, work the program, and prove that they can be sober and clean, then I will look at giving them a sentence that would be appropriate to them. The other thing I want to do is try to get more problem-solving courts. I was talking to a gentleman today that said mental health issues are really important to him. And one of the problem-solving courts, we have a veterans court and a drug court currently going, but there are options to add a problem-solving court that deals with mental health. I want to look at that to see if we can help some of these people that are addicted to drugs are self-medicating, and drug court might help them with some of their mental health issues, but I want to be able to provide them with serious mental health under the court supervision, so that we don't get these people that are on a mental health issue and hurting officers or hurting the public. Additionally, my office, I've said this from day one when I started my campaign, I will go out to the community, hold town hall meetings with the community to see what they want us to focus on, and I will hold town hall meetings with all the law enforcement agencies so they can give me feedback. Because one of the things I've done throughout my entire career is I want all my clients to be informed so they make the best decisions. I've always told my clients at my civil office that I can't make a life decision for you, but I can make sure that you're informed and you have all the knowledge to make the decision for you. And that falls over to my practice as a deputy prosecutor. I've always wanted to be informed on what I could do better. So every jury trial I've ever had, I've asked to talk to the jury after they found a verdict, ask them what I could have done better. I go to the judges always when it's appropriate, ask them what I could have done better, because I'm always trying to be a better attorney and a better person. I don't think I know everything.
You got your exit survey set up.
Yes.
Yep. I like it.
And so I want to do that with the law enforcement officers, ask them what they would focus on if they were me, and give me that constructive criticism to make sure that we have a better relationship and that we are getting justice for the citizens of Henry County.
Very good. Christy Brock, the snake style thing is, we haven't talked to you in a minute. You doing okay down there?
I'm doing all right.
All right. Tell me what the prosecutor's office looks like for you, head count, reorganization, priorities you have.
Sure. So I worked in the prosecutor's office for about 10 years. And the first thing I'll say is that whatever you want to see in the office, you have to embody within yourself first. So, of course, number one, being prepared, knowing what's going on, being a good communicator, being able to work with the other individuals in your office to build their confidence. We do have some newer, one of the level 6 deputy prosecutor, she's newer, so building her confidence, getting her ready to where she feels comfortable going in and handling a trial from start to finish on her own. I think those things are important. Making sure your staff is comfortable and confident and understands what they're doing and that they are fully trained, so that mistakes that, some of the other candidates talked about, so that those things don't happen. And knowing that they feel comfortable coming to you, so that if they make a mistake, they're not hiding it. It's not compounding, but they're coming to you and asking you for help on these things, and being there with an open door, ready to communicate with them is so important. And as long as you are putting all of this out there yourself, it's something that everyone else is then going to bring themselves up to as well. I think that's very important. In terms of victim advocacy, I think it's a great idea to have a victim advocate. It's definitely a stretch goal that I would love to have. But in this day and age, a couple of years ago, maybe you could have gone out and gotten some more funding for that. I do think right now grants are going to be harder to get. There's a lot of competition. More funding is going to be difficult. I think we're looking at having to do more with less, perhaps, now. And so I think the primary victim advocate has to be the prosecutor. You're not going to be just meeting with your victim on day one, gathering a statement, and then going back later and reminding them of what they've said and trying to push them to do something they're not ready for. I think part of victim advocacy is meeting with them continually, like I said, and building that trust with that individual, because so often a victim, they lose their voice in the midst of their crime. And it's not the justice system that should be going in and still putting their voice down. It's something where we're building their voice up and helping them understand that by talking about what happened, that they're getting that power back. And they're talking about these things in a different light, in a different way. And that's what we're doing for these individuals. And we're not just doing it out of a kindness. That's part of it, I think. But we're also doing it so that we have a strong case. And so you're not just trial ready when you pick a strong case or a good case. Building your case is important, but keeping it going for that whole year up to the point that you have to take a case to trial, so that you're not there at the last minute saying, oh gosh, is my victim ready to talk about this? You're not going to get him or her ready overnight. You need to have that whole relationship. I think it would be great as part of, what you have as your office staff is part of it. Part of what you have as your administration are those good relationships. So forming, for example, a sexual assault response team. I know that's something that our health department, I think within the last year or two, tried to put into place. But you really have to have the prosecutor's office involved and on board with that. And I'm not sure we've seen the follow through there. And this is a multidisciplinary approach to victim advocacy, right? You have the victim coming in from the beginning, working with people from Safe at Home, working with sexual assault nurse examiners, working with law enforcement. All of these individuals are a part of this SART team, helping you build your case, supporting the prosecutor's office. But here's what you also get. You also get oversight for the prosecutor's office, because now your victim has lots of individuals to talk to. And they're letting all of these individuals know how the case is going. Are you having, conversations along the way with this individual? Are you having conversations with law enforcement about the case along the way? And so you're getting oversight for the prosecutor as well. And you have people then who are coming in and saying, hey, this victim is feeling a little bit overlooked here. You need to get involved a little bit more. And I think, then that also goes back to, you're doing all of this without any upfront cost. These are people who are coming together wanting to do this anyway, and we're just coordinating our efforts. I think having an office that's full of individuals who don't just tell you what you want to hear, but making sure that you have staff who feels comfortable coming and telling you, hey, Christy, I think, you're messing up on this one. I need you to take a closer look at this. Making sure that you have an office investigator who can be honest with you about that is so important, not just a yes person, and who can help you be that liaison with law enforcement to let you know, how are you doing out in the community with all of these individuals? And that doesn't mean that you are then rubber stamping law enforcement by working closely with them. It means you're building that professional partnership so that you can build strong cases, but you can also talk about your strengths and weaknesses.
You're going to bring me right into the next round of questions that I have for you guys. I want to say special thanks again to the Candidate Series sponsors helping us with the new audio equipment. We're live streaming on YouTube and Facebook nowadays. Lots of comments in there, lots of folks that are watching and paying attention, and it's because of Wyland's Flowers, Ink and Ale, and the Muncie Farm and Fleet Repair organizations that we're able to bring the Candidate Series to you. Staying with you, Christy, I want to hear, I guess, two prongs to this. What can the prosecutor's office to help reduce the detention headcount, the folks that are actually held in Henry County? And is that potentially you guys working with the judges, the police, the sheriff's department, public defender's office, criminal defenders, the prosecutors all working together and having a huddle as a community? What can your office do? Because in over the last couple of years, we've had Sheriff Sproles on a number of times, and he's talked about the headcount rising, and it was, hey, maybe it's judges, maybe it's prosecutor. What role can you play in that?
So I think it has to be a coordinated effort. Again, I think there are a couple of things you need to look at. I mean, you've already heard some of the other candidates talk about making sure that we're getting, the prosecutor's office is getting discovery out so things keep moving along. That said, there's always a certain amount of time that a case is going to take from start to finish. And so I think that if you have a coordinated effort in certain cases where perhaps you have a nonviolent crime that doesn't have a readily apparent victim involved in the case, that you're having conversations between the prosecutor's office and community corrections, the judge of that court, the defense attorney, and looking at ideas like pretrial home detention, electronic monitoring. I think that that's something that could be utilized smartly, but I think you have to have everybody, law enforcement, everyone on that case taking a look at this and signing off on it when you agree to it. The responsibility shouldn't be on any one agency, any one department, or any one person. But equally, you shouldn't have any one agency, department who's dragging their feet and just not getting around to talking about it. I don't think anyone should be on a low level nonviolent offense. I don't think you always have to have a situation where someone is
we're being invaded by fruit flies, and I don't know why. The folks out watching on the live stream, I think that we're just nuts.
But someone's being held on, a bond that they can't pay just because they're indigent. The whole purpose of having a bond is to ensure that an individual is going to return for their appearance in court. And so I think that there are ways to evaluate cases, questions that you can ask to see, are there other factors that still inform that decision besides just the money factor?
All right. Jeremy Bell, same question for you. I guess what influence can you have as a prosecutor's office for reducing the folks that are not sentenced, they're still awaiting trial, going through the process, and reducing the head count in the detention facility?
Yes. Well, obviously, one of the issues is, like you said, the sentenced people, because misdemeanors and level 6 felonies don't go to the DOC, Department of Corrections. So there's a number of those in that head count that are serving their sentences for either a misdemeanor or a level 5 or a level 6 felony. And then there are some that are there for other reasons, like child support, missing child support payments, things like that. But as far as reducing the head count, obviously we could try to move those cases a little quickly more through the system. But what I would like to do is offer them lower bond if they join. And for drug cases, which the vast majority of those low-level felonies and misdemeanors that are taking up the spaces in the jail are drug cases, possessions of meth, possessions of controlled substance, things like that. And I would like to institute a program where maybe they get a bond reduction if they agree to certain stipulations of going to some kind of treatment program or in outpatient treatment, things like that. So that's what I would do.
All right. Tony Saunders, we'll grab the microphone back for you. Do you have any ambitions to change the head count in the detention facility?
Yeah, the big thing is moving cases more quickly, getting them ready for trial, insisting on trial, not just consenting to numerous continuances, saying, this thing's ready to go. Why aren't you? And the other thing is, apparently, the first year that the sheriff and Michael was prosecutor, they tried to set up a system where certain people, mostly level 6 people, were put into community corrections for pre-trial detention. And they went through one round, community corrections screened them, and then John tried to get another round, and Michael was just like, I don't know. No, I don't know. And it's one of those things where if you have a way to help the sheriff keep the head count down, then you can make sure that people who need to be there are there, like Jeremy said, because we can't send misdemeanor people, because we can't send level 6 felony people out. They're more likely to get some sort of home detention anyway, get them started on that. Then they can pay for their incarceration. We don't have to pay for their incarceration. It ensures that they can come back to court because we'll know where they are. But we just need to have follow through. And that's the problem, is there was no follow through. And then eventually the sheriff just had to give up. And we need to find ways to make that happen so that the people who need to be in there are there.
All right, Kathy, you talked about this a little bit in your opening statement. I guess it's your opportunity to expand on how you do it.
Yes, I think it's very important to reduce the jail population. It saves taxpayers dollars. I know people can't see this, but I had a phone call from a former client who's in the Department of Corrections. I had to look his case up. He was also serving a sentence out of Madison County. So I pulled his Madison County case. I looked at something and thought, wow, I really wish we could do that in Henry County. And we can, if I'm the prosecutor. State's notice of supplemental discovery. His case in Madison County was filed November 9. There was discovery that was filed from the Madison County Prosecutor's Office, and it actually says emailed to this defense counsel November 10, November 12, November 14, and November 18. 4 different sets of discovery emailed and sent to the defense counsel in less than 10 days of the charges being filed. That has never happened in this county. I'll be lucky if I get one set of discovery within 6 or 8 months. So we could really speed that process up. Number 2, plea agreements. This is done in other jurisdictions. I've seen it work. I know it will work. You give defense attorneys and the defendants a timeline. Here's a plea agreement. You have 2 pretrials or 60 days or whatever timeline you decide. And obviously this would not be major cases like murder cases. Give them a reasonable plea agreement up front. You've got so much time to accept that. And if you don't accept it, the offer goes up. Yes, there will be a learning curve. People in the jail would have to understand that. But the plea offer increases in prison time the longer that case sits. You're going to reverse the philosophy, which is what we've had for years, that the plea offers go down with time, because that's what they do. When I go to the jail to give plea offers to my clients, I literally have had them get up and walk away from me and go, it's the first plea offer. It'll get better with time. I'll wait it out. I can't argue with them because that's true. We're going to reverse that philosophy. It works. I've seen it work. The other thing with the low-level felonies, I don't think anybody on a driving while license suspended should be occupying our county jail. Give them fines. Bring more money into the county rather than cost us money. I was witnessing something one time. I didn't know what it was. I don't work in Circuit 3, which handles those cases. There was about 25 individuals that were handcuffed and chained together that were spending the weekend in our county jail for driving while license suspended or operating, never received a license. And I actually asked one of the deputies, what is that about? Well, that's what they do. They spend a weekend in jail. Well, our current sheriff has expressed to me that that wreaks havoc on the jail. They're not set up to have 25 additional inmates for the weekend. Oftentimes, those individuals do not speak English. It causes problems to staff the jail. Why not fine them? Give them a fine instead of a weekend in jail and bring more money into the county. They could also use diversion agreements. I call them diversion agreements, agreement to withhold prosecution. Again, bringing more money into the prosecutor's office gets to keep the money on those diversion agreements. It's another avenue they could use and not have to have people serve short sentences in our county jail, costing taxpayer dollars.
Kyle Allen.
What were we doing?
You're good.
No,
Head count in the jail and ways to influence it.
Yeah, there should be some certain parameters across the county where it's known from the judges, from their viewpoint, our perspective, and the prosecutor's office, defense counsel, and then all the officers across the county as well. These are the types of offenses. If there aren't warrants or an awful history for that individual, criminal history, summons them so that they can appear in court at a later date. And a lot of them do revolve around driving type cases and the low level possession type cases, where you don't have actual victims involved. We don't have to protect anybody, protective orders to have concerns about. But then using our resources, like with community corrections, that's a great avenue to pursue for folks. That's one thing I know Joni talks about. Joni runs community corrections, Joni Williams. She always knows how many spots she's got available from her caseworker staff, how many more people could be monitored. Looking at those types of avenues so that we don't have people in there. But then also part of it is just, one of the things that I loved to do back when I was a criminal defense attorney, I would take, if I had 15 to 25 cases at a time with a certain prosecutor, I'd say, hey, let's sit down and let's just work through these together. Open minds, let's be honest. Your case is great, mine sucks, back and forth, whatever it is. My case is great. And let's just see let's trim the fat. Let's see what we can move through quickly. And when you're working with those cases, you know where you stand from an officer, because you want to know that, hey, are these cases priorities to you? Some of them can be so old that they go, what? I don't even remember that case, or I don't care what happens to it. But knowing where the officer would stand as well, say we can just get these things processed. That's also one of the things that I think would be helpful up front that I'd like to do, is just to sit down with everybody in the office and say, all right, what's your priority from a case standpoint? We have to prioritize everything we do from an efficiency and time standpoint. So let's focus on our most important cases. Let's work with the officers that have been involved in these cases or victims involved in these cases and see the level of importance for them. Because the fact of the matter is 99% of cases everywhere have to be resolved other than a trial. If we have a trial for every single case or the vast majority of them, those numbers aren't going to go down in the jail. But being reasonable with what we do as far as prioritizing and saying these cases aren't the good ones for us. Let's resolve them as quickly as possible, as long as they're fair. And again, that devotes time to the more important cases that exist. I think that's a really important thing to look at is that just it's all communication, really, whether it be with defense counsel, with the jail. We know when there's an issue. We get a head count every day that says how many inmates are in the jail, and we can look and see, all right, is this an issue here for our county because there's a bunch of people that were arrested, or are we stuck with people because they've got, a no bond hold and they can't go anywhere because they picked up a new case while they were out on bond and another, on another case. So there are some issues that we can't change, but there are a lot that we can just to move things forward.
This is watching the chat and feeling the vibes in the community and hosting a political show here for the last 7 or 8 years. There's a distrust for some of our law enforcement system and vibes that aren't real great. And watching the chat, there's a lot of people that are voters that aren't super happy with the way things are right now. This is the first prosecutor election since the suicide of Jason Bertram. Seeing a couple of sheriffs that have gotten arrested in the last in Du Bois County and Clinton County in the last couple of months. In Clark County, their judge just their recent sheriff wound up arrested. Tell me about the oversight the prosecutor's office can have in local government and when the local prosecutor should be involved versus, hey, this needs to go somewhere else. How is this office related to the oversight and the police, I guess the watchdog status?
I think that it's important for the prosecutor to do two simple things: follow the facts and follow the law. I know it's a cheesy saying, but the prosecutor's office, we're ministers of justice. It's not about who you know, who you work with. If somebody does something that is unlawful, law enforcement, audit, anybody that's an elected official, county employee, it doesn't matter who you are or what relationship you might have with those folks. At the end of the day, you've got to stand up for what's right. And what's right is, again, following the facts and the law. And being able to separate yourself from relationships that may be longstanding, I think is something that's really important and allows you to be unbiased and take an approach that is dedicated to what actually matters. In regards specifically to law enforcement officers, every law enforcement officer I've ever talked to, if there's an issue, if there's a bad apple, they want the bad apples gone just as quick as everybody else because they don't want to be associated with the bad apples. But that's not to say that that's the current state of what I see day to day with our guys and gals on the streets. I think that they're doing, the best job that they can. They want to learn, they want to grow, they want to work hard. They do all of those things. They've got a tough job. And at the end of the day, if a mistake is made, we just have to review to see, is this something that we need to prosecute? You have to look at the spectrum of what type of mistake was made. Was it something very minor? Or was it something very major? If it's something very minor, then that's probably something that doesn't need to be looked at hard from the prosecutor's office. Could be I pulled someone over for something that I thought was a traffic infraction, but I read the code wrong. Okay, let's educate about that. Let's not do it again. But on the other end of the spectrum, there are a lot of bad things that, I wasn't here for all the things that happened in the past. I'm aware of them. Those terrible things that happened in the past, that's something I couldn't stand for. But if there was something bad enough, then that's where we would need to have oversight. And I would want there to be oversight from the state police or any independent third agency that would be capable of stepping in to do a completely independent review of the situation. And then it gets into talking about, do we need a special prosecutor, special judge? And again, every case is so different because they're also fact specific that we won't know necessarily if we need that right away. Now, if there's something really egregious, then right away, then that's where we might need to immediately have independent investigations done, special prosecutor in place, all those types of things from the outset. The goal is to never have anything, even have a feeling of anything ever being slid under the rug or covered up. You want to make sure that everything you do, again, is in the name of justice, doing things for the right reason. And so that the community knows that even if something happens to somebody that is in a law enforcement position or in any position of power in the community, that based on who they are, that's not going to be the driving force on the decision that's made on what we do. Because again, we have the sole responsibility of ethically investigating and pursuing the cases as they come to us, without playing favorites.
Kathy Ike, I want to, hear from you on the trust for the prosecutor's office and the way we interact with other government agencies and your oversight status.
If I were the elected prosecutor and I received information that an elected official or law enforcement officer may have committed a crime, I would call the Indiana State Police and ask them to conduct an investigation. If they determined that a crime was actually committed, I would turn it over and have a special prosecutor. I would not take care of that matter myself if it's something that came from our own elected county officials or our own local law enforcement. It's not good. So it needs to be turned over to another agency.
All right. Tony Saunders, your chance, same thing?
Yeah, Kathy's right. When you have law enforcement misconduct allegations, almost every one of those, when it rises to the level of criminal investigation, is handled by the Indiana State Police because they're beholden to nobody and they will get to the bottom of it. And then in nearly every case involving police misconduct, you'll see a special prosecutor appointed. And quite honestly, involving any elected official too, because you don't want allegations that, not Henry County, that's really no problem, but they're a Democrat and I'm a Republican, so they're going to say I'm doing it out of political spite. Or, we're both Republicans, but you didn't support me, so you're biased against me. You don't want any of that stuff. You say, hey, look, here's the state police, here's the report. When the state police give me the report, we decide it's time to turn this over to a special prosecutor. You can either ask for one to be appointed or call another county prosecutor and see if they'll handle the case. And that's how you handle the special prosecutor. Speaking of the Du Bois County Sheriff, Orange County handled that to begin with. And that special prosecutor decided not to pursue, which irritated the state police. So they tricked him into coming up to Indianapolis and making false statements. And then the Marion County prosecutor could pick it up and run with it. Same thing in Clinton County. They used the Indiana State Police Pension Fund to create jurisdiction in Marion County. So if you get creative with the process, you can get the bad guys no matter who they are. And if you follow the proper procedure and you do what the overwhelming general rule is, you turn over to the state police, then you get a special prosecutor. That's it.
All right. Your opportunity with the same topic, Jeremy Bell, the oversight from the prosecutor's office for if there's ever any issues inside of county government.
Well, like people have said before, I mean, the first place that you start is an investigation, an independent investigation with whoever that needs to be. Most of the times it's going to be the state police. Sometimes it's going to be an agency like the State Board of Accounts, the AG's office, things like that. I actually prosecuted a township trustee for taking money from the township's accounts, and that was done by an investigation by the State Board of Accounts.
Is this Liberty Township in Henry County?
Liberty Township. I wasn't going to say the township.
Oh, that's fine. Nobody's they're all dead now, so it's fine.
Not for them.
I'm just trying to make Bones crack up over there.
So I think you have to look at the investigation, follow the facts. And I don't think necessarily that every case needs a special prosecutor. But if it's a law enforcement officer, then yes, I would probably get a special prosecutor. My record stands for what it is. I have also prosecuted a law enforcement officer that was drinking and driving. It got assigned to me. I handled the case. And we have to look at the level of the case. You know, if it's a major felony or something like that, then yes, we need a special prosecutor. If it's a minor case, misdemeanor or low-level felony, I don't necessarily know that we need to endure that cost of getting a special prosecutor. Because like some people have said, sometimes like Tony said, sometimes special prosecutors don't really want to pursue the cases. They just want to be done with it because they don't want to have to be driving to 3 counties away. But I think we just have to do the investigation first, leave them to find the facts, and then we apply the law and go from there.
All right, Christy Brock, your chance to weigh in on, I guess, the public trust and the general sense of frustration that there might be things going on, and how folks know that the prosecutor's office is behaving appropriately.
Sure. I don't think there's a lot to add. I think there's been a lot of good comments about this topic. I just would reiterate that no one is above the law. And if you think that if there's an investigation that reveals something, the prosecutor's office then has a duty to follow that and pursue that case the way they would any other case. So whether that means utilizing a special prosecutor to eliminate the perception of bias, that's something that you have to look at with each case, or whether you might have to look at, utilizing a grand jury to eliminate bias or to provide any sort of transparency. Those are all considerations.
All right. Mr. Bones, how you doing over there?
I'm good.
You ready?
Good. Oh yeah.
You ready for the personality segment?
Absolutely.
All right. This is where we relax a little bit. We get out of the real hard stuff, and we never know what's going to come out of this. I don't think we need to do all of the questions, but maybe pick one or two.
Okay.
All right, but make sure you use that microphone because it's helpful.
We'll do.
All right.
Well, I mean, it's Zach's microphone. I don't want to really, get too close to it. This baby. All right, who wants to go first? Let's start with the middle people. They've had to
make sure you use the microphone though, Tony.
Yeah.
If you're volunteering to go first, you get the mic.
All right, Tony. Let's see here. If you could trade places for one day with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
Dead or alive?
Dead or alive.
Well, there's the classless answer, and then there's the good answer.
You can give whatever answer you would like.
What guy doesn't want to be Hugh Hefner? I mean, really.
Well,
no, but seriously, probably. Well, it wouldn't be anybody. I don't know. Probably. I think it would have been interesting to be John Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
okay.
I think that would have been being there, trying to guess what your opponent's doing. That's what lawyers really do, but with higher stakes. I think that would have been probably very interesting. Of course, knowing how it turned out, it was fine, but
Yeah, that's a great answer. Who wants to go next? Same question.
I'll take it.
Okay.
So I think we're all familiar with the recent Artemis journey to and around the moon. And I know that Christina, I really enjoyed following her and the rest of the crew. And I think to be part of the scientific journey, and then also something that brings all of these people together during a time when we're really struggling to find common interests. Yeah, I think that would have been an amazing journey.
All right. Next.
I'll go next. I kind of going to follow up with Christie's. I would want to trade places with Buzz Aldrin when he landed on the moon.
That's if we really did land on the moon.
Well, yeah.
Are you pro or against
The
moon
plot
landing? I guess
thickens.
that's the
I'm
question.
pro moon landing.
It happened.
I mean, it happened. I would have loved to have been there. It would have been so neat.
I always say that it happened too. I've been to the Smithsonian, looked at the space rocks, and they couldn't have possibly gotten those from the desert. So it's definitely from the moon. It had to be.
Yeah. Stanley Kubrick said.
Kyle, Kathy, who are you trading with?
This could be controversial, but honestly, who wouldn't want to be Trump for just one day? Just to see what he goes through, good and bad. I think it'd be an interesting focal point.
Just out there tipping drivers and doing press conferences. Be a hell of a day.
You get to eat your share of Big Macs, or cheeseburgers, or whatever. But
get a little Coke button on the desk.
Yeah,
or Diet Coke. Is it a Diet Coke? Diet Coke button.
Roger Penske. Believe it or not, Jeremiah.
No, I'm shocked.
I know. But I think it'd be pretty cool to be able to see everything that he had done through his career from his viewpoint with the historic record at the Speedway.
Business
now
day,
owning the Speedway.
Business days Penske or race days of Penske? Because to me, there's two different
Race
guys.
day.
Race day
Race
Penske.
day.
Okay.
Yeah. Because those experiences would have been phenomenal to be in the action.
This would be a good weekend to be Roger Penske. You go to Long Beach, your IMSA cars are racing on Saturday, your Indy cars are there on Sunday. It's a good day. All right, Mr. Bones, one more round of these, and then we'll let these guys get to final thoughts. I'm sure they've each got 25 minutes of final thoughts. So I want to get out before midnight.
Let's go with last meal or favorite meal.
So this is what they would choose for their last meal if they had to, not what they had for lunch.
No,
because you've caused confusion with this a number of times.
What would be your favorite meal or your last meal if you had the option to choose?
There you
go. I enjoy every Easter I make a leg of lamb on the Traeger, smoke it. It's very good. That's probably my favorite meal I have. And then my wife makes some really good seasoned potatoes in the oven. And then if we could bring them back, there were these rolls that they made about 30 years ago that they don't make anymore. I'd like those.
All right. Christy Brock.
I think it's more about who I would want to have the meal with. My kids are now, I'm an empty nester. They're out on the East Coast. So I just want to make sure that I get to be with my son, my daughter, and my husband and the rest of my family. And probably chocolate cake would be on the list. So, yeah.
Very good. Jeremy, what's your final meal?
My final meal, I'm going out on a dessert, an entire raspberry pie.
just the sugar rush to finish it off.
Sugar rush to finish it off.
I like your style. Kathy Ike?
Well, my favorite meal is Peterson's at I-69 and 96th Street.
That's a good restaurant.
A nice, rare steak. Don't bring it to me overcooked. My dad and I go there for my birthday every year. We've gone there for many years, do other celebrations there. My father is 85 years old. He'll be 86 in October. He looks like he's about 60 or 65. He still works full-time every single day in his law firm up at Keystone at the Crossing. He's a CPA and a tax attorney. He's also the official photographer for Indiana University sports. So he is on the basketball court, the football field. He went to all the national championship games. I have pictures of him at all of the games, taking photos. He's been doing that for years. He had one picture at the national championship game. I said, well, who on earth is the guy dressed in the suit next to you? He said, the CIA, because Trump was there at the last game. So
very cool.
Very fun. Kyle Allen?
I want my great aunt Kate's homemade chicken and noodles and her homemade sugar cream pie. She turns 100 this summer. She can't see because of macular degeneration, but she's still sharp as a whip. And, I wish that I could have one more of her actually prepared meals.
Have you made her write the recipes down for you?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you're running out of time.
That doesn't do me any damn good, but, she's written them down.
Yeah. You still have to put the effort in. All right. Let's work our way into final thoughts. We do this kind of around the counterclockwise side. We'll start with you, Kathy, and we'll finish up. These campaigns don't run on dreams. So if you're trying to raise money, this is your chance to tell people how to donate to the campaign, how to door knock, volunteers, anything we left out that you wanted to get to. Tell us what we need to know.
I do have a website, Kathy Ike for Henry County Prosecutor, and it's Kathy Ike for Prosecutor Committee if they want to write a check. I've raised over $10,000 for my campaign. from various sources and spent a lot of money and got a nice mailer with a very nice professional pamphlet out. One fact about me, I have been showing bulldogs for 29 years and put championship titles on over 80 bulldogs. I'm also an AKC licensed judge. I've had a lot of support from my fellow bulldoggers that have been friends from all over the entire country. And one of my bulldog friends made my wonderful, very professional looking pamphlet in the span of one evening that I have sent out to many of the voters. I really look forward to being the prosecutor of this county, changing things, making it safer, making it better for the citizens of Henry County, improving the communication with law enforcement, allowing them to be heard. They put in hours upon hours into their investigations, and I want them to be part of the case as it goes to trial or when it's pled out in court. Invite them to come to court. We can all work together on this. I'd like to see that happen.
All right. Kyle Allen, what did we forget? And how do people contact you, follow you, donate, all that stuff?
AllenForProsecutor.com or Kyle Allen for Henry County Prosecutor on old Facebook. You can find any links you need there. Message me anything you need to know. Happy to talk with everybody if there are any follow-up questions. Otherwise, what do you guys? I think everything's been said over and over by us this evening, several times here through the last few weeks. Most importantly, just get out and vote. I know it's already started, but I think it's important just to remind everybody to vote. We want to see good turnout. I think there are a lot of interesting races this primary that should help bring the numbers up, even though it's not a presidential election year. So I'm hoping to see good turnout just by the nature of having a couple interesting races. And obviously, I would appreciate everybody's support. So vote for Kyle.
All right. Zach Burcham, you've been listening very thoughtfully tonight. Anything on your mind?
No. Yeah, there's a lot of people in the chat, so that's interesting. So people, I will say we had an audio issue earlier. So if you were watching the live stream, then catch the podcast. And it was in the intro part. Sorry, Kyle, it was when you were talking, but I got it straightened out eventually.
Just on the live stream, the podcast.
Yeah, podcast. I was going to say podcast is going to be perfect. But no, I don't really have much. There's a lot of stuff in the chat, but I think some people probably need a government class at times.
Remember, they all get to vote.
Yeah, but you know what? They're not voting for me, so I'll say it. But no, other than that, just watch the show, pay attention. We got some other episodes, and like check these people on social media. And it's a small town, so it's not super hard to find somebody and ask them questions if you want to know anything else that we might not have covered tonight.
Mr. Bones,
I'm good.
You defer to next week.
Defer, please.
Christy Brock.
So you can find me on brockforprosecutor.com. I love my hometown. I love my county. I love my community. I can't say enough about the good things that I have gotten from growing up here, from raising my kids here. And I just want all families to have the same opportunities that I've had. And I want people to be able to grow, to thrive, to be happy, and to feel safe. And if I can have a small part in helping continue that legacy and to make it even better, that's what I want to do. And I just really look forward to earning everybody's trust.
Very good. Jeremy Bell, thanks for being here. If folks want more information or if there's anything we left out, what do we need to cover?
You can find me at bellforprosecutor.com or on Facebook at Jeremy S. Bell for Prosecutor. I would just like that for everybody to take into consideration that what they're doing with their vote is that they are saying who they would hire if they were had to privately hire somebody for a prosecution of a crime. Luckily, we don't have to do that. We have the prosecutor's office for that. But if you go into an attorney's office to hire them, what do you want to know? You want to know they've got experience and they've been doing the job and getting results done. And I believe that I have been doing that for the last 20 years. And I would just appreciate for anybody that votes for me. And if anybody has any questions, They can contact me anytime, day or night.
All right. And Tony Saunders, make sure we grab that mic for you again. Things we left out, ways for folks can volunteer, get more information.
So I do have the Facebook page, Saunders for Prosecutor. You'll see me on there. I release videos every so often, kind of telling you who I am, what my positions are. I think one of the things that we left out that we probably shouldn't have was we were pretty critical of the current administration on one side of the office, but I think we should be commending the current prosecutor's office for the way they've really turned around the child support collection efforts. They're doing an excellent job with that right now. And it's very important for people to understand that that is one of the key functions of the prosecutor's office, is to make sure that that child support gets collected. And they have really, the people who are in that office right now are doing a very good job at that. So I want to say, I want to continue that. And I want to keep that a focus. And I don't think we should just, criticize if we can compliment. So that's what I want to do. And that's what I want to say is on that issue, we should continue with what they're doing. But one of the issues I think the voters should consider when they go into that voting booth is if you or your family member were the victim of a crime, which one of us would you rather have trying to get justice for you or your family? And I can just say that over the last 20 years, I've built a very successful practice, and I've been very successful for my clients. And I would like to make the people of Henry County my client and serve them as successfully as I have my clients over the last 20 years. And I appreciate being here.
Very good. Thank you all for being a part of this tonight. Running for public office is no easy task. I've done it 3 times myself. It's a thankless deal, and a lot of times we get local offices that you have one candidate. There's no conversation. There's no interview process for the public, and we don't really feel like we have a say. The county chairperson does their best to find somebody to run for the damn office, and then we get who we get. And the fact that we have a robust office with 5 qualified folks in the legal community in Henry County that are willing to put themselves forward and do this, I'm excited that Henry County's got a choice to make, and that voters have really got to think hard before they cast their vote. Thank you all for being here and being a part of the show. Thanks to the audience for paying attention. Please support the sponsors that make this possible. The Patreon, that's what keeps us going all around the year, and then during the candidate series, Wylands, Muncie Farm and Fleet, and Incanale. Those guys are particularly important to what we're doing here today. Thank these guys for being here. Make sure you do investigate your options on the ballot all the way down. And we will see you back here Thursday of next week with the candidates for sheriff.